Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our Tuesday night news and Tanak and news briefing, the 14th of July, 2026. Okay. And my main topic I'll be dealing with is the one world Noahide religion that's forming in Jerusalem. Okay. Now I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but I got some more information on it. It's something that need to be uh, exposed or talked about. Okay, so we're gonna do that today. Okay, you can go to our YouTube channel, Prophets of Awakening, check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos that you can look at, examine, get the meat out. These videos will lead you to the truth of the Holy Scriptures. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It'll be greatly appreciated. Okay. We have our Cash App at the bottom of the screen for those that want to support this channel or help it move along. That too will be greatly appreciated. Okay. This is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Okay. And when I say non-Messianic, the Tanakh is the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance. Um, it starts from Genesis and go to Malachi. We don't deal with the New Testament. Don't subscribe to it because aware that it was written in Greek, never was in Hebrew, and the Romans and the Edomites and Gentiles one uh, created it. Okay, right. So with that being said, we don't support deal with Paul, the church fathers, JC, none of that. Okay, and for those that don't know, this channel was created to aid and assist our Hebrews who are waking up to their true identity in these last days, and also understanding who their Savior and their Redeemer truly is. Okay, shalom and welcome to the channel, and welcome to our Tuesday night news briefing. Okay, we're gonna do our normal, which is a moment of silence, a prayer, and a psalms. And then we go into our topic for discussion, which I just mentioned, is the one world Noahide laws, religion that is forming as we speak, already formed in Jerusalem. Okay, we're gonna go into that, talk about it. Okay, and then we're going to our Tuesday Tanakh and news briefing, which is normally what I do is the objective of the briefing is to combine the Tanakh, which is the Old Testament, with current events and end time prophecies, uh, and try to bring a greater understanding, a deeper understanding of what's happening in the scriptures, and like I said, merge them with current events and with end time prophecies. Okay, and then we're gonna close out, and then we'll pick a scripture like we normally do, and then we'll close out uh, after we pick that scripture. Okay, so this moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts and all that He's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Oh Lord, we come this day, bow down, honoring you, praising you, and blessing you, and believing in you. And we thank you for your wisdom and your knowledge that you have poured out upon us, and through your prophets, uh, you reveal the times that we as Jacob's children would endure the tribulation. Okay, keep us, O Lord, guide us and deliver us. And we see you now within the Holy Scriptures, and we trust you, O Lord, with all our heart and our soul. Keep not thy silence, but shine forth on our enemies with thy power and thy great glory. Peace be unto you. Okay, so read the song right quick. Okay. Okay, I'll read Psalms 2. It says, why do the heathen rage? Why do the heathen rage? And the people imagine a vain thing. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder, cast their cords from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. Yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree. The Lord hath said unto me, Thou art my son. This day have I begotten thee. Ask of me, ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathens for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron, and thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's clay. Be wise now, therefore, O ye kings, and be instructed, ye judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear, and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and ye perish from the way when his wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are all they that put their trust in him. Okay, so I'm always shining a light on this verse, right, on this song, because it's needed, it's needed, it needs to be heard. So uh, every opportunity I can get, I try to shine a light on it so that it can get out there in YouTube world, into the media world, social media world, where people can hear it. So it says, and we've been told, like I said earlier, that we don't subscribe to the New Testament. We know how it came about. We know where it came from. We know who JC is and all that, right? So it tells us right here, and this is an example. It says, we know they tell us JC is the son. He was hidden in the bosom from the beginning, right? But with the Father, and that's a lie, a big lie. So we see right here, it says these songs are David. David wrote these songs, and these songs are pertaining to him and his relationship with the Lord of hosts, which is Michael, right? He's not dealing with he don't it's not no son hidden in the bush. So we see right here that it says, uh, let us break their bands asunder. Verse 3, cast away their cords from us. This is what the heathen was saying about the Israelites. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision. It says, then shall he, the Lord of hosts, which I told you is Michael, right? Michael is the Lord of hosts. Yahweh is the creator. Michael is the Lord of hosts. Lord, he's the Lord over the most high hosts. So it says, let us bring their bands asunder. Let's break their bands asunder, cast away their cords from us. He that sitteth in the heavens, this is the Lord of hosts, shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision. Then here you go. Then shall he speak, the Lord of hosts, God over Israel. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. Then he says, 6, yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. Right? So this king that he set on the Mount Zion is David. It's prophesied by Balaam in Numbers 23:24. Okay? So he says right here, I set my king on my holy hill in Zion, right? Then 7, I will declare the decree. The Lord have said, David's talking, David the king, I will declare the decree that the Lord has spoken. I have said he has said unto me, thou art my son. This is why we don't deal with the New Testament, because it got precept upon precept to show you that he ain't the son. He says, I will declare the decree. The Lord has said unto me, thou art my son. This day have I begotten thee. So this David, when Samuel came and anointed him, just right here. Then it goes on to say, acts of me. David talking. Um, the Lord of hosts is talking to David. Acts of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thy inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Now here you go. He just told us in verse 7 who the son is. David is the son. When he sent Samuel to go anoint him, that's when he became the Lord's most begotten son, right? Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron. I just told you that David done all that and was prophesied about all that in Numbers, right? Thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Beware now, therefore, O ye kings, right? Be instructed, ye judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice and trembling. Then 12, kiss the Son. We just told you who the Son was. It ain't JC. He told you it's 7. David is the son that he begotten. Kiss the son. David is the one that's king over Israel on the throne in Zion. So he says, kiss the son, lest he be angry, and ye perish from the way when his wrath is kindled. But a little. Blessed are all they that put their trust in him. Okay, so we see right here, one more thing I want to shine a light on. Verse 5, this is the Lord of hosts, wrath. Then shall he speak unto them, this is the heathen, the enemies, Israel enemies. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath. That's the Lord of hosts' wrath, right? God over Israel, and vex them with his sort of displeasure. Then when you go to verse 12, this David, the king that's over Israel, wrath. Kiss the son, lest he be angry and ye perish from the way when his wrath is kindled for a little while. Blessed are all they that put their trust in him. So when you tick David off, the God that's over David is the Lord of hosts. So when the Lord of hosts is angry and his wrath come forth, it's in accordance with David, the wrath of David. You have to understand that. Nowhere in the scripture right here dealing with JC. Okay, any comments on that? Okay, so we're gonna keep moving. So with that being said, my topic for discussion is, like I said earlier, I had talked about these Noahide laws, and like a week or so ago, and I went ahead and mentioned them. That way, we can next time we come say about them, we can go in a little deeper because you already understand what the definition is. So what these Gentiles have done, these Israelites, these Israelis that's over there, these Edomites that's in the land of Israel, is posing as the Israelites, uh, came up with these Noahide laws for non-Gentile, for non-Israelites or non-Jews. Okay, there's a difference in a Jew and an Israelite. The Jew is people that's over there now that's posing that stole our identity, and the Israelite is the real Israelite that come from Jacob. Jacob's name was changed to Israel because he strove with the Lord. His name was changed to Israel. That's how you get Israelites. He had 12 sons. So anyway, we see right here that these people come up with the Noahide laws, which are laws of these Noah's laws they got from Noah. They have intertwined it with what happened with Noah and what happened with our 10 Commandments that was given to Moses. So they didn't concocted these Noahide laws the same way they concocted the New Testament. And so what their objective is that these laws are for the so-called, if I can get that right, Gohim, what they call them, the Gentile or non-Jewish person. So these laws are for them. But the thing is that they have these laws set to go in. They got a system and a council that they done concocted that's going to go into effect with these Noahide laws in November. And if you've been listening to this channel long enough, you'll know that, understand that, okay, what these people got planned for November. They have to, because of the agenda they have set in place, they have to suspend the Constitution. And they have to do it before the midterm elections, because in the midterm elections, it's already understood with Trump rating at less than 20, and all of his goons that along with him are not going to be reelected. These people have already vowed they ain't going to be elected, so they don't have to. In order to continue with the chaos that they got going on, they're gonna have to do something about the midterm. So this Noahide laws they're talking about this in Jerusalem is a part of that when you look at it. And not only that, we see now that which you have so many people that's disillusioned caught up with caught up with the New Testament. A lot of these things they can't see. So, out of the blue, over the last 6 months, they've been trying to merge the military of the United States with the military of Israel. And so a baboon can see that these no-eye laws and what they're trying to do with that is all uh, mingled up together. It's a prophecy or system they got in place. They want to bring in place. They want to rebuild a temple in Jerusalem, and they want to rule the world from Jerusalem for 1,000 years. And so that's what we witnessing. They're trying to do. But we're going to see if it's the Lord of hosts going to allow it, or is he going to allow it and then cut it off, or is he going to cut it out before it even take root? Okay. So any comments on that? I'm going to play the video in a minute. You got anything on it? On that, what I just said?
Shalom. Shalom. Brother Leonard, just to the fact that so this is all part of the Greater Israel Project, right? In the
Exactly.
Patch Judaic.
Exactly. These people want to rule. They want to rule Jerusalem. They want to rule the world from Jerusalem for 1,000 years. And but what so many people don't understand was they was there before. They didn't just show up there. They when the most they stole the land of Israel back in 143 BC. And they were the one that was occupying Jerusalem from 143 BC to 70 AD. But they concocted the scriptures and they concocted our history, like in everything else they've done with the New Testament, and they got you thinking that those were Israelites that was in the land in 70 AD that was ran out, but it was them. They had stole the land of Israel in the book of Obadiah, and they dwelled there. And then in 70 AD, the Roman government through Titus and Vespasian ran them out, but they gave them safe passage to Spain. And everybody over in that region, the Europeans and all of them know who they are, and the people that they want to have no dealings with them. So that's how they ended up wanting, because of the hatred of the kings of the world. They were trying to find a place to go. That's why the Pina and the Santa Marina popped up on the world scene out of Spain, because they the ones that's in Spain, and they running from the curses that's on them in Deuteronomy and Ezekiel 35. So they came here to America, the 13 colonies, and set that all up and set up what we dealing with now with so-called America. They're the harlot that's riding upon the four beasts. But anyway, they eventually they were ran out, which was prophesied in the book of Malachi, and then they returned. They went all the way around through World War One, World War Two, got the British government to make a deal with the Ottoman Empire, and they got the land back, and then they returned in 1948, just like they see it in Malachi chapter 4. I mean chapter 1. So this is where we at today. They back, and they want to rule the world from Jerusalem. Okay, for 1,000 years. So if you don't understand those things, then you limited with your understanding on what's actually going on today. Okay, so let me play this video right quick. These Noahide laws they got in place for November. They want to institute them in Jerusalem. Notice it's in Jerusalem.
What if the one world religion spoken about in Revelation does not look evil at first? What if it sounds moral? What if it talks about God and peace and justice and even unity, but quietly removes Jesus Christ? Well, this November, a global religious movement is planning for the very first time an international congress in Jerusalem, and most Christians have never even heard of it. On the surface, as you'll see, it sounds beautiful, it sounds peaceful, it sounds like a wonderful plan to unite the nations under God. But there's one massive question that every Christian needs to ask. What happens when the world is invited into a religion that talks about God, but completely rejects the Son of God altogether? Where will you stand? So hit that like button. Let's get this out there to as many people as we can, so they're aware about what's about to happen in Jerusalem in November. And as always, let me know what you think in the comments. So right here, First International Congress of Noahides set for Jerusalem this November. It says for the
This November, okay?
very first time in history, tens of thousands of non-Jews who have voluntarily embraced the 7 laws of Noah are no longer scattered and stateless. They have an address, Jerusalem. This November, in Brit Olam Noahide World Center will host the first International Congress of Noahides in the Eternal Capital, bringing together delegates from 6 continents to formally establish the World Noahide Movement, complete with a founding charter, a rabbinic court, regional councils, and even a financial infrastructure designed to sustain a global religious civilization. This ain't small stuff, especially when it's connected to the Jewish people, and what I'm going to share with you here in a minute, when it's connected with them, and also what it says here, the eternal capital, the eternal address, Jerusalem. So before we even explain what this movement teaches, I want you to see why this matters right now. Okay, because right away, I think we should be paying attention, as always, not panicking, not hating, not jumping into some wild conspiracy, but truly just kind of paying attention, because this has a pattern Scripture tells us to watch for: a global religious unity movement centered around morality, around Jerusalem, presented as peace for the nations, and connected to a worldview still waiting for their Messiah. Because as Christians, we believe Jesus already came. He is the Messiah. He is the Son of God. He is the King. But Scripture also warns that Christ's return, that before he returns, the world will be vulnerable to a false peace, a false unity, and a false messianic hope. So when we see a movement rising that talks about God and about peace in the nations and morality in Jerusalem, we just got to ask one question: where's Jesus? Because a religious system can sound beautiful and still be spiritually dangerous if it removes the Son of God. What's the issue? I mean, come on. Do not murder? Amen. Don't steal? Yep. Don't blaspheme God? Truth. Respect justice? Let's go, right? Don't abuse animals? Of course. Again, a lot of this sounds like basic morality, but notice what he just said. This is not being presented as common sense, where he says, here are some shared values we all agree on. He said they are divine. And in that sense, we're no longer talking about ethics. We're talking about religious authority. We're talking about divine command. And we're talking about who defines God and who defines worship and what counts as idolatry. And that is where everything changes. Because the first law is not just believe in God. The first law is about not worshiping other gods. And that's what I paid attention to right away. And in the Noahide framework, that immediately, because it raises a question: what about Christians who worship Jesus Christ as Lord? Because we don't believe Jesus is merely a prophet or moral teacher or even a created being. We believe Jesus is the divine Son of God. Well, I don't want to bore you with a bunch of details and history, but I want to give you a little bit context about the Noahide laws and how they came from rabbinic Jewish tradition. They're not listed in Genesis as one clear 7-point list. They are derived through rabbinic interpretation, especially through Talmudic tradition, and later systematized in Jewish legal writings. And one of the major figures who I'm starting to learn is I have a hard time saying it, Maimonides. Okay, he is widely accepted as one of the most important Jewish authorities, especially in Orthodox Judaism. He is also one of the major sources quoted when people explain the Noahide laws. And according to Maimonides, this is not merely about Gentiles being moral people. It's about Gentiles knowingly accepting these commandments as divine laws.
Like I was saying last night, Josephus, you got Sir Francis Bacon, and this guy, he's another one, linguist, Maimonides.
So I want to share something with you here, an article, actually something that he wrote, Maimonides wrote about the Gentiles. Okay, it's anyone who accepts upon himself the fulfillment of these 7 mitzvot and is precise in their observant is considered one of the pious among the Gentiles and will merit a share in the world to come. He's talking about these Noahide laws. This applies only when he accepts them and fulfills them, because the Holy One, blessed be he, commanded them in the Torah and informed us through Moses, our teacher, that Noah's descendants have been commanded to fulfill them. So the pious among the Gentiles, Maimonides, it says that Gentiles who accept this carefully, observes these 7 commands, is considered among the pious among the Gentiles. Values being described through a Noahide framework instead of through Christ. You thought about that? And even more importantly, why are so many Christians satisfied when leaders speak vaguely? I wonder about this. Like, why these leaders speak vaguely about God, but they rarely actually talk about Jesus. They don't really talk about Jesus. They talk about God a lot. The danger in the and this brings us to Satanism. Satanism. Satanism is not ultimately about red costumes and pitchforks. Biblically, Satanism, its original rebellion, was the rejection of God's authority. It was pride. It was self-exaltation. It was wanting the throne without submission to God. So the most satanic thing in the world is not always obvious occultism. Sometimes the most satanic thing is a religious system that says, we believe in God, but not his son. We want peace, but we don't want the Prince of Peace. We want global unity, but not the lordship of Jesus Christ. That is the danger. Because Satan does not need to convince a generation to openly worship him if he can convince them to reject. Every time we talk about this kind of stuff, never with fear, never with hatred. Do not get paranoid and do not get anti-Semitic about this. No. Let me know what you think in the comments, my friend. We got the first International Congress set of Jerusalem, the Noahides. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And as I said,
Okay, what you think?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. So is these Noahide laws? It's like they 10 Commandments or something.
Yeah, it's only 7 of them, but they all they doing is simulating what was done in the Tanak with the 10 Commandments. But with these Edomites, when you understand who they are, they're not the real Israelites. Like I just explained, they are they posing as the Israelites, and they supposedly then set in place a council for non-Jewish people to bring them in, and it's through the Noahide laws. And the only way, when you understand what's going on, you say, where is this coming from, right? Because their anticipation is in the very near future. Like I said, around the end of this year, first of next year, they looking to have a temple built, or in the process of building a temple. And like I say, when you look at what's going on in the world around you, you can see what all these Edomites are on the move, just like they did when 9/11. They was something they knew what was getting ready to happen, so they got on the move. They wasn't nowhere around the conflict that happened, and so they're doing the same thing now. If you like I said, if your eyes are open, you can see what they're doing. And we see right here why November, like I said, because they got all this in place. I mean, we see, which makes no sense. Anybody that have any kind of common sense can see why would the United States merge its military with them? It's only one reason. The objective they have is they want to rule the world from Jerusalem. And they got all these people over here in America, especially, there's Gentiles, this the so-called Christian nationalists. They want to appease them for what they've done to help them get to where they at by giving them these Noahide laws. They have a shared interest in what they're getting ready to do in Jerusalem. That's what it's all about. Got any comments on that?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. Like you said, I see it. I see them setting it up in the moves they doing, taking out the other countries, and then the infrastructures that they're building.
Exactly, and then you can see the urgency on it when you understand what I was saying about November and what they're trying to do with the temple. You can see the urgency. Why are they trying to? They control the media. Okay, and all they so-called technocrats, all of them Edomites, they got dual citizenship. What we are witnessing is like I said, it's a coup,
Right.
an Edomite coup, Israeli coup, Edomite Israeli coup. What we see happening. They buying up all the social media because of the world and turned against them. So they buying up all the social media to try to turn the tide on the what how the people feel about what they're doing over there in the Middle East with all this these countries that they're attacking and the mass suicide they do. And like I said, that's where the sense of urgency coming in at. I mean, you're supposed to be getting bombarded by these missiles in Iran, but you steady bombing Lebanon, and you steady plotting to go up against Turkey because you're on deadline, timeline. But like I say, the Christian can't see none of that. He clouded up by the spell that they done gave them. They did 2,500 years ago with JC when they concocted him. Okay, they can't see none of this. Okay, got anything else on that?
Shalom, no sir.
Okay, so like I said, what we're gonna go into, we're going to our Tanaka news briefing, and the objective, like I said, of this news briefing, when I concocted it, is to get the listeners to get a better understanding of what's really going on in the world. So combining the Tanakh, the Old Testament, the real scriptures, the real Word of God, and with current events and with end time prophecies to get a better understanding on what's going on to that Israelite that has awakened and shook off the spell that's been put on him and shaking off this God, this false God they've given us. Like it told us in Deuteronomy, we're going to serve other gods, newly raised up gods. We're going to be ran from our nation. We're going to discontinue from our inheritance, and we're going to be among the Gentiles, and we're going to pick up their ways, pick up their gods and everything. That's exactly where we at. We're at the end of it. Okay. So we play this first news briefing right here. Okay.
Dangerous weather along multiple fronts today. Scenes of destruction across much of the U.S. In recent days, a series of shocking events has unfolded across America, capturing global attention and leaving many people deeply concerned. Powerful storms unleash tornadoes.
Notice how they downplaying this right here. This how I just read.
And devastating floods.
I just read in Psalms chapter 2 when the Lord of hosts says he speak to the heathen. He speak to these wicked ass people. He speak to them through wrath. That's how he talked to them. Like when he came to, he had Moses to go to Egypt and warn the Pharaoh, tell the Pharaoh let his people go. But Moses was a spokesman, him and Aaron, but the Lord of hosts spoke to the Egyptians through wrath. These the 10 plagues. That's how he talked to the Gentile. Okay, so they downplaying. Okay, they didn't get you to say God on the New Testament, and he's not capable of doing these things right here. The God is in the Old Testament. Our God, he's the one capable of bringing about destruction and judgment on the Gentile and on these wicked nations. And so he's doing that. He's doing what he do, but they downplaying it. Like I said, they control the media. Check this out.
It's across multiple states, leaving families displaced, neighborhoods damaged, and communities struggling to recover. In Southern California, the rapidly spreading volcano fire forced residents to evacuate with little warning as flames advanced dangerously. At the same time, unsettling phenomena.
So you have to understand if the Lord of hosts had a problem with Sodom and Gomorrah and what he did to Sodom and Gomorrah, what the hell you think he probably got with places like California, okay, and New York, and the things that's going on in New Orleans? Come on.
Including blood-red skies and mysterious trumpet-like sounds echoing across different states, have intensified a sense that something unusual is unfolding. Together, these events have filled many people with uncertainty, fear, and urgent questions about the days ahead. These extraordinary events bring to mind Jesus' words in Luke 21:11. There will be great earthquakes, famine,
We want to disregard that.
and pestilences in various places. Life only hours earlier were transformed into corridors of destruction, where emergency sirens gave way to the sounds of chainsaws, rescue crews, and anxious prayers. Farther south, another danger emerged as relentless rainfall overwhelmed rivers, creeks, and drainage systems. Floodwaters rose with alarming speed, swallowing roads, campgrounds, and residential neighborhoods before many residents had time to escape. Families found themselves trapped inside homes and recreational vehicles.
So this was a day ago.
While rescue teams navigated the flood using boats and canoes, reaching people who had become isolated by the rapidly rising water. Entire communities watched helplessly as vehicles disappeared beneath muddy currents and familiar landmarks vanished under the expanding flood. Meteorologists warned that the threat was far from over. Additional heavy rainfall, damaging winds, flash flooding, and even more tornadoes remained possible as the sprawling storm system continued its march across the eastern United States. For millions, uncertainty replaced routine, with each weather alert carrying the possibility that the next community could be struck. Moments like these inevitably remind many believers of the words of Jesus. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. As violent winds roar across the land and floodwaters surge beyond their boundaries, many believers see these events as reminders that creation itself is groaning, urging humanity to lift its eyes toward God and remain spiritually awake. Even as cleanup crews worked tirelessly across the Midwest and Southeast, another crisis was already unfolding farther east. New Jersey found itself overwhelmed after days of relentless rain transformed streets into rivers and neighborhoods into flood zones. In some areas, more than 7 inches of rain fell within a short period, submerging major highways, stranding motorists, and forcing emergency responders to carry out multiple water rescues. The relentless downpour tested infrastructure already pushed to its limits, leaving thousands watching the water rise with little they could do but wait. The most dramatic moment came in Ocean Township, where floodwater rushed into a BJ's Wholesale Club as the building's roof suddenly gave way. 27 people were inside when the collapse occurred, and for several tense moments, uncertainty filled the air as rescue teams raced against time. Police officers, firefighters, K-9 units, drones, and emergency crews searched the damaged structure of smoke into the sky. Within hours, the blaze had expanded across more than 75 acres, prompting an urgent response from firefighters as nearby communities faced an increasingly uncertain situation. With shifting winds driving the flames in unpredictable directions, evacuation orders continued to expand throughout the day. Families were given little time to gather essential belongings before leaving their homes behind, unsure whether they would have anything to return to. Fire crews attacked the blaze from every possible angle, while helicopters and air tankers repeatedly released water and fire retardant over the burning hillsides. Aerial footage captured flames advancing toward homes, golf courses, and recreational areas, illustrating how quickly a single spark could threaten entire neighborhoods. Although firefighters worked relentlessly to slow the fire's progress, officials warned that changing conditions could place additional properties at risk. The scenes unfolding in California added another chapter to a season already marked by destructive storms, widespread flooding, and growing uncertainty across the country. For many Christians, such images bring to mind the vivid vision recorded in Revelation. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came
life. We're not saying this flying lizard is a dragon, but we can't deny that its shape startles many people, not out of real fear, but from a strange sense of familiarity. Like we've seen this image somewhere a long time ago, not in everyday life, but in the pages of Holy Scripture. When you put this alongside strange creatures from the sea or signs in the sky, a bigger picture starts to emerge. It's not just one animal, one light, or one event. It's the rising up of symbols. Images that once only lived in prophetic words now show up as shadows, enough to wake up watchfulness in believers. And when these symbols start stepping out of the Bible pages and into real life, we know the shaking isn't just in nature. Human society will react too. Coming up next, the big upheavals in groups. Angel, a vision both terrifying and divine. 10 events, each shocking on its own, together impossible to ignore. Have you felt the world shifting beneath your feet? Have you seen something so strange it made your heart race? Time is moving, and the signs are accelerating. The story isn't over yet. Stay alert, because the first sign is about to reveal itself. 1. Millions of mayflies blanket a gas station. One summer morning, a quiet gas station in Iowa transformed into something almost unreal. The ground looked snow-covered, yet it shimmered and moved as millions of mayflies descended, coating every surface in living motion. Sunlight struck their wings and scattered into countless sparks, turning asphalt, pumps, and parked cars into a glittering field. Drivers slowed, then stopped entirely, unsure whether they were witnessing beauty or warning. The insects drifted in waves, rising and settling in delicate patterns that seemed too coordinated to be random. The air filled with a faint rustle, soft but constant, like creation whispering in unison. What appeared fragile became overwhelming, a reminder that even the smallest creatures can transform an ordinary place into something unforgettable. As the swarm thickened, observers felt their breath catch. Some stepped out of their cars, others remained frozen behind windshields, watching the living snowfall gather around them. Each mayfly lived only a day or two, yet together they formed a spectacle that felt intentional, purposeful, almost ceremonial. The briefness of their existence contrasted sharply with the magnitude of their presence. In that moment, the swarm seemed to illustrate a deeper truth. Fleeting lives can still carry profound meaning.
Okay, what's the time?
Shalom, brother. Back. I've been seeing. I just think it's interesting all that different weather.
Oh,
Uh,
we have another warning.
Go ahead.
from the East Coast to the West Coast, to Europe. We seeing these weather patterns like that, and I seen the in New Jersey that looked like that was a decent area. You know, like
Okay,
people with money. To me, just when I seen some of the drone coverage.
okay,
So yes, sir. So it's just interesting where I'm seeing some of the neighborhoods getting tore up seem to be better areas.
okay.
Mhm.
You think these is, to me it seems like, to me it's no different than what happened in Egypt is happening now.
Right. Okay. Yes, sir. Hmm.
Yeah, in the way the magnitude of it. Okay, yeah. So here we go.
Sure.
According to the FBI and to the U.S. State Department, they are saying that Americans should be on high alert because of possible sleeper cells and lone actors. That is here inside the United States and abroad as well. I want to break down what's going on. But here's a comment that I received, or an email that I received. I want to read this to you. This person wrote to me and says this, and I quote, I want to share a horror story that happened to me and my wife. We were vacationing in Spain, and when we were on our way to the airport to fly home, our driver confronted us about being American and how our president, Donald Trump, is creating big problems in the world. The driver yelled at us for at least 10 minutes and threatened to take us to his people and let them deal with us. We were obviously scared for our lives and were just happy to get out when we did. I've never seen people so mad at Americans before in my life, and I travel a lot for work. Okay. So when I was reading this, because I've seen other reports like this before. I've seen some people in Spain as well, and in other European countries where they have gone to these countries and people are harassing them. They've almost pretty much been assaulted.
I remember one person, him and his, I think his son, they end up getting taken for like hours, pretty much interrogated. They had no clue why. Okay, I want to explain this though, because what we've been hearing from the FBI for quite some time is that there is a high possibility of either some type of sleeper cell attack or a lone wolf attack here in the United States, abroad as well, but mainly here in the U.S. We saw this back when, well, there's that shooting in Toronto. Okay, so when that shooting happened in Toronto, they at the U.S. Embassy, these were people that were trying to inflict harm on Americans. Okay, but the reason this is happening now, okay, we kind of got a new wave of this. It's because of this. President Trump says the United States is reinstating a naval blockade of Iran as the dispute over control of the Strait of Hormuz escalates. Iran is, they have a lot of proxies. Okay, they have Hezbollah, Yemen Houthis. Okay, they have many different proxies. Now, here's the thing: they are funding these proxies. They have Hamas as well, but they're funding their proxies with money that they're getting from oil sales. Okay, they're funding their proxies. If they are allowed, if Iran's allowed to charge these other countries to use the Strait of Hormuz, they're going to use that money to fund their proxies, which could mean we're going to potentially see more greater nuclear ambitions from them. We could see heightened attacks, right? All this stuff. Well, this is what President Trump did today. President Trump proposed a 20% toll on cargo through the Strait of Hormuz, and he's restarting the Iran blockade. But he says that the United States is going to pretty much run the whole operation. They're going to be guardians of the Strait of Hormuz. That's not true. Okay, that is absolutely not true. As an American, you have a lot of freedom to go and travel different countries, and perfectly fine. But in some, you are going to be looked at differently. And I was reading a handful of comments from people recently on Reddit who have traveled, many of which traveled over the 4th of July. And they all said the same thing, that people here in the United States, other Americans, were kind of open to the idea and all this stuff that, the United States, we should take over the Strait of Hormuz. Anyway, but other people from other countries, they didn't understand it. They don't understand why the United States needs to get involved. You need to remain vigilant, because as of all these reports are coming out, we're now starting to hear more updates, even from our State Department. They put travel advisories on many different countries, even from the FBI, that they're constantly looking for threats here in the United States. It is just the world that we live in as of right now.
Okay, you got any feedback on that?
Shalom, brother Leonard. One thing that stuck out to me, just him bringing up traveling, and it just seemed like since 2019, it's been this plot to restrict traveling, little by little. Travel. Well, it was a lot during the pandemic, but it was no traveling. But I feel like that was just a test for for this what's coming, to where you can't move freely.
Right. When especially when they know what's coming.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They setting the stage for what they know getting ready to happen. Okay. You get some?
Right. Sure.
Mm-hmm. All right. Check this out. I kind of talked about this over last week, but check it out.
Billings, Montana, could reach 108. And here is the part almost no one is talking about. This is not the peak of the emergency. It is only the beginning. A single dome of high pressure is baking the west right now, and an even larger one is forecast to lock in behind.
This is on the West Coast. Okay.
Here is what is coming, and why it only gets worse from here. Right now, a single dome of high pressure is sitting on top of the western and north central United States, and it is not moving. It is the reason several major American cities are today on the edge of their all-time temperature records, not their daily records, their all-time records, the hottest readings ever measured at those stations in any month of any year. And the feature driving it is an upper-level ridge with 500 millibar heights above 594 decameters. If that number means nothing to you, here's what it means in practice. It is one of the strongest, most stubborn high-pressure configurations the atmosphere can build, and it has effectively slammed a lid over the Intermountain West and the Northern Plains. The National Weather Service's Weather Prediction Center has flagged what it calls major to extreme heat risk conditions, and those conditions are expected to persist into late this coming week. Forecast confidence is high. This is not a maybe. This is happening today. The peak is today.
The tornado forecasting
like this matters. A dome of high pressure forces air to sink. Sinking air compresses, and compressed air warms. It also suppresses cloud cover, which means nothing is left to block the sun. So you get clear skies, sinking warm air.
So this happening right now.
Bakes hour after hour with no relief. Do that for one afternoon and you get a hot day. Do it for a week straight over the same ground with the same dome refusing to slide east. And you get what we are watching right now. The critical detail is not just how strong this ridge is, it is that it will barely move. The same ground gets heated over and over, with no overnight cool down and no day-to-day break to reset. That is the setup. Now let me show you exactly how hot it is about to get and which cities are in the most danger. Two cities are the headline this weekend, and both of them are threatening their all-time record highs. The first is Salt Lake City, Utah. Salt Lake City's all-time record high, the hottest temperature ever recorded there across the entire history of that weather station, is 107 degrees Fahrenheit. Today, that record is in play. The second is Billings, Montana. Billings' all-time record is 108 degrees. That one is in play too. I want to be precise about what that means, because it is easy to hear record heat and tune it out. We hear it every summer. But there's a difference between a daily record and an all-time record, and it is a big difference. The daily record is the hottest it has ever been on one specific calendar date. The hottest July 12th on file, for example. Those fall constantly. Dozens of them go down every summer somewhere in the country. An all-time record is a completely different animal. It is the hottest that station has ever been, period. The single hottest reading in its entire observational history, no matter the month, no matter the year, going back decades. Those almost never fall. When a city threatens its all-time high, it means the current pattern is not just hot for the season, it is competing with the most extreme heat the location has ever produced. That is what makes this weekend genuinely rare and genuinely alarming. We are not talking about a warm stretch that nudges a few daily marks. We are talking about two major cities standing right at the ceiling of everything they have ever recorded. And they are getting there because of that one stuck dome overhead, not because of anything local or random. The same ridge is pressing down on both of them and on a lot of ground in between. Consider what it takes to threaten an all-time record. These station histories go back many decades through every heat wave those cities have ever seen. Every brutal summer, every Dust Bowl era scorcher, every modern hot spell is already baked into that record.
So that's on the West Coast. This was happening on the East Coast.
The index that rarely climbs above 1 is forecast to hit 8 over the Northeast this afternoon. That number belongs in Oklahoma in spring, not Quebec and northern Maine in July, and it is only the opening move. Over the next 10 days, one locked jet stream pattern is set to drive a rare tornado threat, a multi-day severe siege down the East Coast, and a tropical system building in the Gulf. In the next few minutes, I will show you exactly what forecasters are watching day by day and why they keep using the word deadly. Here's what you need to understand before anything else. The threat aimed at the eastern United States right now is not a single storm. It is one pattern, one large reconfiguration of the jet stream that switched on over the last 24 hours and is now driving a chain of separate hazards, one after another, across roughly the next 10 days. Yesterday, the eastern half of the country was in a quiet stretch, weeks with no significant severe weather. Today, that stretch is over, and the reason it is over is a single change in the shape of the winds high above our heads. The setup is what meteorologists call a dipole. On one side, a massive dome of high pressure, a heat dome, has built across the Great Plains and the Northern Plains. On the other side, over the eastern part of the country, the jet stream is sharpened into a deep trough. Those two features are locked together, and the space between them is doing all the work. That is where the danger lives, and that is what we are going to walk through piece by piece, because each act of this feeds the next. I want to be clear about the stakes up front. Over the next 10 days, this one pattern is forecast to produce a rare and potentially significant tornado threat over far northern New England today, a multi-day severe weather siege from the mid-Atlantic to the northeast this coming weekend, and a tropical system that the Gulf of Mexico is quietly trying to build from scratch.
Record heat in the west and major flooding are riding along with all of it. 4 different families of hazard from one jet stream configuration in the same week. Let me show you how they connect. Start with the dome. That heat dome parked over the plains is not just a heat story, though it is breaking records, and we will get to that. Its more important job for everyone on the East Coast is what it does to the wind. On the eastern flank of a strong ridge of high pressure, the winds high in the atmosphere turn sharply out of the northwest and accelerate. Forecasters described it as a high-speed conveyor belt, and that phrase is worth holding on to because it explains everything that follows. That northwest flow is the engine of this entire 10-day sequence. It is what drives cold, storm-generating disturbances down out of Canada and into the warm, humid, unstable air sitting over the northeast. It is what will steer this weekend's clusters of storms southeast toward the Interstate 95 corridor. And it is the same broad pattern whose trailing edge sags a stalling front down into the Gulf, where it gives a tropical system a chance to spin up. The model run is not a forecast, and treating one alarming solution as if it were the answer is exactly the kind of overreach that leads people astray. The responsible way to read this is the ensemble way. Rising odds, widespread, real, but uncertain. Here's the fork that decides how this ends, and it is genuinely undecided as of today. Several forecasters describe the same mechanism, that trough of northern stream energy diving down over the eastern United States this weekend. The same trough driving the northeast severe threat could sweep south far enough to, in their words, scoop up the developing Gulf system. If it does, it combines with that low, and it gives whatever is there a boost in intensity. Meteorologists call this baroclinic enhancement, and it is why some model runs strengthen the system as it moves north over or near land, instead of weakening it the way you would normally expect. So the two halves of this story are not separate after all. The same conveyor belt that is dropping baseball-size hail on Maine today could, by the end of next week, be reaching down to grab a Gulf low and drive it toward the eastern United States with extra strength. That is one plausible path. The other path is that the energy never consolidates over the water. The GFS AI model showed exactly that. Energy hanging over the southeast that might not become a Gulf system at all. In that scenario,
So like I said, I just read in the Psalms, the Lord of hosts speaks to the Gentile, the Israel enemies through wrath, right? Through the through his creation. You got any comments on that? So we got a serious deadlock on with heat on the West Coast, and you got tornadoes and hurricanes and everything else going on the East Coast this weekend, or this weekend, the end of the weekend. Anybody got anything on that?
Shalom in Berlin. That is that El Nino stuff. Is that still going
Yeah.
on? Like that?
It's all part
Right,
of it.
so,
That's in play
okay,
too.
yeah.
But this was causing a lot of it. But the El Nino is got its effect on it, but it's separate in its own self. They just add more. It's like I said, it's as if the Lord of hosts knows something that they got going that's wicked as hell that he cutting off or intervening on it. Okay, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so I was telling you about. We see what they're doing. These people doing with these Edomites. You gotta understand that they got dual citizenship. It's just as many as them here in America and involved in our politics as it is over there in Israel. And like I said, I just told you what their plans are. Okay, the same way they did to the people in Gaza, they're getting ready to try to do to us. Okay, but anyway, so when you understand that, and I told you about it's all hinging on the election, and they're attacking the American judiciary and the electoral system and all that. So in return, okay, let's check this out. I don't know if anybody been heard about it, but so we know all of a sudden, Lindsey Graham came up dead, right? And McConnell. We can go with McConnell first. Check it out.
Our Republican supermajority has been so worried about me being able to potentially support someone before a special election.
So they can't figure out whether he dead or whatever. But anyway, he's not in a position to be to maintain what he need to do as in the Senate. So they looking at the correct way to do it is to have a what they call an emergency election or whatever for to get somebody in there, but they can't afford that because of the plans they got. Like I told you, what's going to happen at the midterms if things go right when they normally do. It's just been going for the last 2,500 years. I mean, 250 years. They're going to be ousted, so they can't allow that to happen. But check it out, what happened.
That they passed not one but two laws. They tried at first to say they could submit a list of 3 people to me from the Republican Party, and I'd have to pick. Now they say I can't fill a vacancy, but I have to call a special election. But here's the thing: yes. There is a Kentucky
special election. But they're trying to go around that
constitutional provision that says that I appoint all state officers when there's a vacancy. The question is, does that apply to federal offices? Well, before there was ever a law in Kentucky on how this would work, multiple appointments were made by governors, assuming under that provision. So if we end up there, and I hope we don't, I hope Senator McConnell will provide proof of life tomorrow and that we can all move on. There's at least going to be probably a little disagreement.
I bet there probably will be. And unfortunately, spoiler alert, if it eventually got to the Supreme Court, if it advantages the Democrats, they will strike it down. Let's just be clear about that. But regardless of what ends up happening, I like what Governor Beshear is doing right there. He is not backing off of Mitch McConnell just because he released this banger of a photo. Relationship goals, really, I think we can all agree. You may not like his politics, but like the dude's got aura. Anyway, so they released that, and Governor Beshear could have just backed off and been like, oh, well, you know, we call his bluff, and he released it, so now that's it. But a lot of people really do question whether. So
what you got to understand, you got to go back in when Trump first term. And all the bullshit that went on with Mitch McConnell. Look where he is now, okay? And then here go the other one. So it's all as if the Lord of hosts knocking them off, okay? I just showed you what he's doing with the weather. Check this out. This just last week. 2 of them come up missing. Check it out.
When I tell y'all, it didn't even take 24 hours for the truth to finally start coming out about Lindsey Graham. Oh, I mean it. I mean it. I'm not sure his body was cold before some people started speaking up and letting some news out there. Let's start with this. Keith Edwards says, apparently the NDAs are no longer enforceable. And he posed this, okay? James is smiling on Instagram, I guess this is, says the following. Just woke up to find out Lindsey Graham is dead. LOL.
These two right here is the main characters involved in the Project 2025. Let that be known.
Most of you know him as the homophobic senator from South Carolina, but to me, he will always be the man who paid a Twinkie pre-transition college student, this person, to a fat stack of cash to do unspeakable things to him in a hotel room while he wore red lingerie. It is a canon trans event to have far-right freaks bankrolling you and then turning around and voting against you. People love to judge us for it, but I never see them opening their wallets. Shout out to sex workers everywhere forced to humanize their enemies just to make rent. It is an absolute mindfuck to me that one of the reasons I have any semblance of financial security and a lack of student loans is because of this man. At the time, I had no idea who he was, and I only figured it out because another group of twinks leaked Lady G to the media. Some queers tried to grandstand critique this, saying we shouldn't out people. I believe bigots with power deserve no peace or privacy, especially when they hold public office. I'm glad they did it. Icons forever. Anyway, if you've ever enjoyed what I do on the internet, know that it is in part because of Lindsey's generous donations over a decade ago. If I've ever sent you money for something, know that was kickstarted by the now deceased sissy senator from South Carolina. Lindsey, rest in hell for what you did to our community. I will continue to love queer and trans people harder than you ever hated us. You loved every second of our time together, and now everyone knows. Now, let me just say, I'll just say right up front here, y'all. I'll just say right up front here. I have no evidence of any of the things that were claimed by this person. Zero evidence of it. It's possible that people are using the fact that he's now gone to just start saying all sorts of shit, knowing that I guess you can't sue for life. And if you're a televangelist, I mean, how many of these people are screaming 24/7 about how homosexuality is bad and wrong, and the second that people look away, they are gargling balls. They are choking on dick. I mean, how so many of them have been caught. I still think back to like Ted Haggard. Remember that guy? Televangelist preacher dude got caught doing crystal meth off a hooker's ass after when he preaches against gayness all the time, or preached against gayness all the time. Think of all the Larry Craig. Think of all the Republicans who scream up and down about morality and family values and then fundamentally do the opposite of what they preach. I mean, it is, look at Brian Noam, right? Brian Noam, who's married to, what's her face? Christy Noam, who was out torturing immigrants across this country. Meanwhile, he's bouncing his big old titties around and jacking off with sex workers on a Zoom call. Like, all these guys, they all have skeletons in their closet. They're all super repressed. I mean, I've told you guys about the study where they attached electrodes to the penises of men and then showed them porn. And the men who expressed homophobic attitudes always got hard when shown homophobic pornography. Whereas the men who had no problem with gay people stayed flaccid during gay porn, and they would get erect during being shown straight porn. Like, you know, you're kind of just telling on yourself. You're telling on yourself if you hate gay people, hate trans guys on Neptune right now, stumbling over words. Remember, he was trying to say anti-Semites on TV. He said anti-Seminites, anti-Semanites. He's got semen on the brain. But yeah, man, I would be surprised if this is the last we heard from James is Smiling. I'd be surprised if this is the last we heard. I think there's going to be more people that come out now that say, "Oh yeah, I was with him. I was with him." You know, it's if you can if there's a high dollar male escort or trans escort business in DC, oh, they probably got some stories that would just blow your fucking socks off, bro. That would just, you would be in awe if you heard some of the shit that these people probably know. And that's something.
Okay. So you heard anything about this Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham passing away?
Now, I know about Lindsey Graham, but not McConnell.
Oh, yeah. They right now they're hiding the fact that, so the Democrats believe he did. But they trying to come out, they use the AI to try to show, like he was just saying, a proof of life that he's still alive because they're trying to buy time in order so they won't have to have a special election. That's 2 special elections they got to have. And we already know whoever the Republican is, they ain't trying to deal with them. So that's 2 seats they're gonna lose. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna watch to see how many gonna come up missing. It ain't gonna be hard to figure out who's doing it if some more of them start coming up missing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's confirming what is some very, very wicked they got playing against Most High people in the end of this year and the beginning of next year. Okay? And he's cutting it off. Same way he did with the Syrian army. Okay? So you good on that?
Right, yes, sir.
Okay, so with that being said, let me see what I'm at. Okay, we'll pick a scripture, and then we'll break that scripture down, and we'll talk about it. Then we'll move on to our Q&A.
Yes, sir. My scripture, Brother Leonard, I'll go to I'm going to Joel chapter 2, and just verses 28 through 31. I got
Right.
Yes, sir. And it says, "And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams. Your young men shall see visions. and also upon the servants and upon the handmaids. In those days will I pour out my spirit, and I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. And shalom. That is Joel chapter 2, verses 28 through 31.
Okay, it sounds like what we just went through with Tanak and news briefing, right?
Right,
What
yes,
sound
sir.
like to me. Oh yeah. You got anything else on that?
Just I mean, to me, brother Leonard, yeah, that's why I went to it because that's what it kind of that's what it was reminding me of, and y'all had a question about it to see if I get the confirmation. So
Right, because he said before the great and day, terrible day. So these right here, when we looking at all this unusual stuff is out of the ordinary or signs. Okay,
right,
you got something?
right, yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go to our questions and comments and dialogue, and if anybody have any testimonies, we're gonna open it up now for that.
Right. Shalom, brother Leonard. I was listening to some of that Caesar's Messiah from
Okay.
right, yes, sir, from I think that dude Joseph Atwell, right?
Right. That's the book we was talking about
Right, right.
Sunday night, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So just when I was listening to it, so first of all, like Josephus was he a person? He was real, right?
Yeah, Josephus. Josephus is he was when you understand when the Israelites left the land of Israel was in 143 BC. Then the Edomites came in. Titus and Vespasian took Josephus under their wing. They was the fake Jews. That was uh those were Edomites. You ever heard of Masada? What happened in Masada with Herod?
No, sir, I don't think so.
There is it was a what you would call a high tech back in that day was a high tech fortress that Herod had built on his plateau called they call it Masada. It's like he was known for these this advanced engineering that he was doing. The things that he was doing was beyond his time. So one of them is that Masada. He built that secret fortress, and then the other one was Caesarea, the port city Caesarea.
Okay, right, yes, sir. I am familiar with that.
So when Titus and Vespasian came in and to run all the Israelites, all the Edomites out of the land of Israel back in 70 AD, these Edomites held up at Masada, and then they had a mass slaughter or suicide. They all got together and this right here let you know these ain't no Israelites, but they all got together and they did a mass suicide. They all made an oath they gonna kill themselves, but Josephus didn't, and
Okay.
that's how Titus and Vespasian ran into him, and he took him. They pretty much adopted him, and he the one gave them all the information on how things work in the Jewish world.
Mm,
Yeah, and like I said, people don't know these things, and that's why they believe. That's why they still under the spell they under because they haven't done none of the research on this and have been exposed to it. Yeah, so Josephus told him how to make himself, how to bring how him, like you was saying the other day, they were not royalty. Titus and Vespasian wasn't royalty, right?
right, yes, sir.
And I don't really think they had no aspirations to be no emperor, but Josephus showed them about how to set up a prophecy, how to make him. The book I was telling you about that Josephus wrote. What was that we talked about the other day? Not the one we just talked about, but it was a book that I think it was Memoirs of the Jews or something like that.
Antiquity of
Antiquity
the
of the Jews.
sure.
He put up now. He wrote. He made it. He turned Titus and Vespasian into messiahs.
Okay.
And that's how they became popular, and that's how they ended up becoming emperors, because Josephus showed them how to do it, how to set themselves up and how to prophesy. So he wrote that book, and he had Titus as the Messiah. Okay, then when Constantine got hold to it, that's when Constantine took it and made JC. But eventually, at first, Titus was the one that went down to the Sea of Galilee, and he was a fisher of men, and all that. Josephus put him on. Excuse me. Josephus made him out to be a Messiah by bouncing off of the Old Testament. And so you have to, when you understand it, you have to read that, and you'll see that you can put those two books, the story that's in the book that Josephus wrote, and do a compare and contrast with the New Testament and all that happened in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Josephus, the same. He wanted to, he a major participant in that. Just like I said, Sir Francis Bacon had a bogus, had a secret name, which was can't think of the name. His name. He had
Shakespeare.
Yeah, Shakespeare. He had a secret name, Shakespeare. That was his linguist name, this secret name, and then Josephus had a secret name. Okay, what's that? Was Piso or something like that? I can't remember the name, but he had a secret name.
Yeah, it says in that Arius Calpurnius Piso.
Right. That's the same dude, same guy, and then but he rewrote that because he was a linguist. He rewrote it and made Titus and Vespasian look like messiahs. That's how he blew them up. And then they eventually became emperors, father and son. They back-to-back emperors. Josephus was the architect behind it, and they actually that was when he did that work. That was the whole objective was to get Titus and Vespasian in there. They ain't had no idea of all the crap that's going on now. What his name? Constantine came behind him and looked at what he had done. That's how they concocted JC.
Oh, okay.
Right. Like I said, they had no idea that it was gonna blow up where it's at today, where JC at. They was trying to deal with their situation at that time. Like I said, Constantine needed Josephus was trying to get Titus and Vespasian into the emperors. So he used his literary skills to do that. And then Constantine, he just subdued the other three kings of the Roman Empire. Now he needed religion, and he needed the God to rule the kingdom that he just acquired. So that's why he went to the same sources and concocted JC, and then concocted the Holy Roman Empire. That's when the New Testament is what made it holy. When JC and the New Testament. So he went to the same source. These linguists that dealing with they warlocks and all that. They summoning demon spirits and all that, and you know what I'm saying, they actors. Because that's what Shakespeare was. They all actors. It's all coming out of Greece. Philosophers. Like I said. Right. So yes, that was their purpose. That was the purpose of the New Testament, was to maintain Constantine dominion. He ain't had no idea it was gonna get the way it's at today. It was about what he needed to maintain his dominion while he was alive, and his successors, his family, his lineage. But they had no idea it was gonna blow up like it did.
Right.
So
They're not smart enough necessarily for that, right? Like you said, it was just to rule the people at that time and to
at that time, exactly. And like I was saying, it wasn't that hard really to do. It's because people was illiterate. It wasn't. We can see the hand of the Lord of hosts in all of it because now everybody is literate and they're starting to see. Like I'm saying, you're able to expose. You can see how that didn't. Now with an educated person, it don't work. When you can simply go to Daniel 9:25 and see that ain't none of him. He was made up. And then if that ain't good enough for somebody that's blind, you go to Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14. A virgin shall conceive. That ain't none of him. So you see what happened. Yeah, that's how that works. You got anything else?
yeah, right, yes, sir. Brother Leonard, can I read the stanza out of that book, the true authorship of the New Testament, that is that Arius Calpurnius Piso book, that Josephus
Okay.
book. Just
All
and
right.
yeah, could you break this down for me? So it says, I know I had heard that name Masada before, but it says, then he inserted into the Gospel of Mark after the year 75, the fallen commander of Masada, Eleazar ben Yar. He makes him Jarius in Mark 5:22. Then he puts him into Luke 8:41 as Lazarus. He was teasing that he piso because his alter ego creation. He was teasing that it was he Piso or Josephus because his alter ego creation was JC. He could heal and raise from the dead, whereas the Jews had been forced by him to perish at Masada. And then the last one, Brother Leonard, it says, because of the destruction in the war, Judea after 70 AD was desolate and underpopulated, with little left to tax. The Herodian aristocracy, right? I'm sorry, that's wrong. The Herodian aristocracy or aristocrats had gone to Rome permanently to live. The seduction priesthood appointees and the in-laws of the Herods were dead at the revolutionaries' hands, and the remainder scattered to Rome. Even the Essenic visionaries in the desert were left dead at Piso's hand. The only surviving Judean leadership were the non-political or fence-straddling Pharisees, who, after 70, changed their name to rabbis.
Exactly. Exactly. Ain't that something?
Right, yes, sir.
So did you catch that part that it's seen it?
Right, the seduction priesthood.
No, that's seen it. You just said you just read the Essenic faction.
Okay, right, yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
You know what that is?
The Pharisees.
That's the Essenes.
Oh, so they just okay,
The
yeah,
Dead
right,
Sea Scrolls. That's them. That's who the Dead Sea Scrolls broke the Dead Sea Scrolls. Like I said, it was all about. That's how you get the New Testament. They was over there in this place, like in the Library of Alexandria, and they was over out there fumbling with these scriptures. Like I said, they got 3 or 4 caves where they found nothing but torn up fragments, and they downplay that. But that's when they rewriting it, and the actual scriptures from our forefathers, they tearing them up, throwing them down in this thing, and they rewriting it. Oh, yeah.
Balling it up like the homework and throwing them in the bin.
Right, exactly, right. And they coming up with another version of it. Okay. And so another thing to understand, once the information started coming out as being revealed, is that I told you when Alexander, he was a little toy boy for Aristotle and Plato and them. That's where he get his vision from, to rule the world, from Aristotle and them. So that when you understand the Greek culture, the older man would go to the young boy, go to the gymnasium, look at the boy, they all run around naked, because they ones dealing with weights and working out, dealing with the body, lusting over the body. So they would go to the gymnasium because everybody naked, and they'll see a boy they want, where he built, or if he endowed or whatever, and then they would go to the parent. That was commonplace. Like the man just told you about what Lindsey Graham and all them doing. They go all the way back to that. So he says, then he go to the father and tell him, I want to be your son tutor. And the father and the Greek people knew what he meant when he said tutor. The boy gonna be his boy toy. He gonna educate him and teach him philosophy and all that, but at the same time, they're gonna do the do. He's gonna be his boy toy. So that's who Alexander was to Aristotle and Plato and them. So they taught him about the world, how the world works, and the you know, how to build a civilization and all that. That's why he wanted to go. When he got old enough, he wanted to go and conquer the world, and he wanted to build these cities. Greek cities, homosexual cities, called Alexandrias all over the place. That's why you got Alexandrias all over the place right today. And the main one was when he came into Egypt. He built Alexandria, Egypt, on the coast, on the Nile. I think it was on the Nile. Yeah. And then he built another Alexandria up in the Himalaya Mountains. That's where Caesarea was sent. That's what Cleopatra, because they understood all that, the known world back then. So when Augustus Caesar came to kill Julius Caesar's son, which was Caesarion, he was the rightful heir of the Roman Empire. She sent him away to the monastery up in Alexandria. And now his whole life changed because he was raised by monks now. He was given literary skills and skills on how to heal and all this stuff. So he went there at 12 years old. He came back at 30, and now he got these skills as a monk. And he got on a toga, a Buddhist toga. He ain't got on no Hebrew Israelite garment. And like I said, all this stuff is there when if the Most High or the Lord of Hosts feel fit to lead you in that direction, yeah. Because the information is there. It's all about knowing and just go and Googling it. Like I said, Therapist is an example. Go Google that and see what the hell you get. Okay.
Right. So
yeah, and anything else like we talking about now, Josephus. Go Google Josephus. You know what I mean? Bring him up on YouTube, and then get some kind of foundation. Okay, these all been hid from us. They understand all of it, but we don't, because we don't venture to deal with those type of things. But once you start dealing with it, and the information started coming out, then you can't not see it once it's been revealed. Okay.
Right. Shalom.
Yeah.
Just to second that, like I can't not see it, and then even when I see like how I'm reading this book, right? how you got me reading this book, the Caesar's Messiah, and I had read a part in there where it says something about, because I never read this in the New Testament, but it referenced it in this book where Lazarus died or whatever, and he rose, but on the fourth day, and that just
right,
seems like typology and things like that.
right. So when you understand who Josephus is, like I said, him, Sir Francis Bacon, John D, all these people, they linguists, the church fathers. When you say linguists, they know all these different languages, and at the same time they summoning demons. They're dealing with demonology and all that's tied together to be a linguist. So uh, when I told you about what happened at Masada, they found Josephus, they connected Josephus, they gave him, they brought him in, adopted him. And that's why he ended up getting the last name of those first, I think 8 or 9 Caesars. They had I can't think of what their name was. They had the ESUS on the end of their name, right?
Flavius.
Yeah, Flavius. So he got that. That's why they call him Josephus Flavius. They put it. He was adopted into that family. So him being a linguist, like the man just told you, all the characters in the New Testament is from his family. He concocted. He a linguist, a author, a book writer. So he telling you right there, Lazarus is his cousin. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it's a part in that book that's going to break all that down. You tell you like the girl. I was trying to think of that name the other day. Bernice. Bernice is the woman that from the Hasmonean dynasty that married Harry.
Harry. Okay. Right.
You put her in there. She one of the characters in there. Okay. Okay.
Like you said, this is a whole nother rabbit hole on top of finding out who the Lord of Hosts actually is, the God of Israel, Michael. But finding out like when I learned typology, when you had a few classes on that, like, that's insane, and it's wicked. But uncovering it and actually reading over what they did is crazy, because it's deeper than I thought when when first getting in class and all that, first waking up.
Right. And scriptures after telling you that, but you don't have no reference to it until you come in contact with it. Like he said, we see that in the book of Daniel, all those prophecies in the book of Daniel, where he says, at the end of their kingdom, it says, man's gonna stand up, a king gonna stand up, and then we know who that is. That was Constantine. He subdued 3. We know the story from the historical side of it. The Roman Empire was sacked, and it was divided up into four kingdoms, and then Constantine was one of them. So with 4 of them, Constantine subdued 3. And the beast he talking about, it ain't no Antichrist. The beast, a beast is what we told to Daniel. These 4 animals, they're gonna come on the scene. That's what a beast is. These 4 kingdoms that's gonna rise on the earth before the end. So the 4 beasts is a kingdom, and it received a womb in the head, but did live. So those giants broke through Hadrian Wall, went all the way to Rome and sacked Rome. And they took over residency in Rome for about 2 or 3 years. Nobody could get them out. And then so when that happened, the Roman Empire fractured into 4 parts. That's how you get the three generals, the 3 men emperors, along with Constantine. And then Constantine subdued the other 3, and he brought the Roman Empire back. But now they had our records. That's how you get the Holy Roman Empire, because he fused our records, their history, what they was doing with our records, and that's how they created the Holy Roman Empire. That's how Rome came into existence. I mean, the basilica, whatever you call it, in Rome. It's all predicated off of the Tanakh, the Old Testament. And they wasn't, like I was saying, when you understand the story, they wasn't able to do that until they converted our records. Like I said, when you get to Septuagint, they converted our records from Hebrew to Greek in Alexandria, Egypt. And once they did that, that's what all we got today. That's how we get the New Testament and all that. They converted they transformed our religion, our laws and statutes to not to Greek. Ain't that something?
Right. Yes, sir. That's crazy.
And
And
all that stuff had to be noticed. Go ahead. All that stuff had to be. You have to know that, because if you just start breaking it down, the spell that's on the average everyday person, they think you crazy.
yes, sir. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
really
Something.
and yes, sir. I was gonna ask another question, brother. Leonard, my last question. And when I was reading, while I was listening to First Kings 6 today as well, and
Mm-hmm.
in there it was talking about the stone when they was building the temple, when Solomon was building the temple. It said the stone was coming made ready, stone made ready, so there would be no sound while they was building.
Okay.
And for me, brother Leonard, so my question is just that seems like it's like kind of holy or whatever. Cause like on the construction sites like here, or like the ones I've been on and worked on, I mean it's so much noise out there, and it um I not that it's wicked or nothing like that, but I just don't I just know that's not the way of the life of a Hebrew, but I just thought it was interesting that it said that the stone was coming made ready, like from them from the tribute, from the when they was what they say hewing the rock, those Canaanites, they had cutting the rocks and doing all that. It was
Right.
already come, yes sir, the rocks were just coming so they could build them, so that set them in place versus making all that noise. But I just wanted to know if you knew why they wanted to keep the noise to the minimum.
From my understanding of that was that's what the men of Tyre was doing. So all that stuff was being done away from Jerusalem, and it was being what they call it, exported into Jerusalem.
Right, yes sir, yes sir.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
so the men of Tyre is not Israelites. So he had them doing it, and then we talked about a couple of weeks ago how the Most High put a spirit on a certain uh, family of people that gave them skills on how to fashion gold and all that. But as far as the stones being cut and the timber and all that, the men of Tyre, those other men, other people, which had to be men of stature, did all that.
And right, and that makes sense, brother Leonard.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because another thing about that situation too, we see in uh I'm thinking it's in Jasher. Remember when how we know that Zechariah and Haggai was prophesying, and then you had the singers singing when Zerubbabel built this temple.
Right, right,
Right.
right.
Okay.
Yes, sir. But yes, sir. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, those that they were giants that was cutting the stone and all that. And then,
Right.
brother, and the question of that, I remember when at least when I was watching House of David and Samuel built that altar, and I have read that in the Old Testament. It says when they make the altar, don't cut the stones.
Exactly. Right. Right. Yeah. That was the the stones inside the temple, but the ones that they built the walls up and all that weird was huge stone.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But it's a difference. The Holy of Holy and all that was different.
Okay. Right. Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Behind the veil. Okay. Sure.
All right. And I'm quite sure, like I said, he put a spirit on a spirit what he call craftsmanship on a certain race of men, family of men, and they knew how to do that where they didn't have to fashion it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Sir. Mm-hmm.
Oh
Put
yeah.
it in place. Put it in place the right
Right.
way.
Yeah, exactly. Because we know that's what uh, Adam did. So when they built altars, so they already had the art was they had a blueprint, had to have a blueprint.
Right. Of course.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
and it tells us that Jacob wandered up on the altar that Abraham had built. Remember he
Yeah.
laid his head on one of the stones.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
You got anything else?
No, no, sir. Shalom. I'm good.
Okay. Yeah. So like I was saying before, that so many people don't understand the fact that uh, they think that it's there was some kind of supernatural with the New Testament. What's the difference in how these people concocted the Constitution? No different than how they concocted the New Testament, right? We know what when you write it violate, what these people do, they conjurers. Look who was all around Nebuchadnezzar and around Pharaoh. Was all these sorcerers and musicians, sorcerers and conjurers and diviners. It's all that knowledge that the fallen angels had given humanity. That's what was all around Nebuchadnezzar and the Pharaoh, and we know that was around Cyrus and everybody, all the rest of them, the kings that came on earth. These people, their kingdoms were built around that knowledge from the fallen angels, right?
Right, sir.
And so I don't know if you heard the story, but you said that the founders, the founding fathers, when the Constitution came about, they locked themselves in the room,
Mm-hmm.
conjured up these spirits. Oh yeah,
Come on.
ain't there something?
That's
That's
crazy.
who they are.
Mm.
They want you to think that they locked, the divine spirit came down and gave them, Christian spirit came down and gave them the understanding of the Constitution. No, it was witchcraft, sorcery. Same way with the New Testament. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. There's some.
Sure.
So you good?
I'm good, sir.
Okay. So with that being said, like I said, we got our reading through the Tanak tomorrow night. It's at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central Time. Women can come in through YouTube, and then we got the Q&A. We decide to put the link out for tomorrow. We'll put the link out at the end of the class for Q&A. So with that being said, I'm gonna say shalom, shalom, and another shalom. I'll see everybody tomorrow for our reading through the Tanakh night. Okay, shalom.
Shalom.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it because it's a must that you understand who God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament in Tanakh, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up and then you begin to understand. So I highly
highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel, and it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is, and the Godhead.